morning, Deepika. It's really nice that you finally agreed to do this conversation with me on women in built environment and particularly focusing on the architecture. As I have discussed with you earlier also that this work is more of a self-search through people like you and to understand your life journey. And the research method is called autoethnography, where it is your life or your biography and my pen. And in the following conversation, I'm going to ask you very simple questions, which are more related to your life being a woman in the profession. So the focus is on the gender aspect of it, that how in our profession, women are finding their ways and, bringing their own career path in a certain manner which they wish to or they are pushed to. So that depends on person to person. So there will be few questions for you, and also I need to take your permission for recording the session, and eventually it will be in the public domain for students to learn about it, and also it will be written as a manuscript where we are trying to document number of women across the country. So once again, thank you, Deepika, for agreeing to do this conversation. And I just wish to hear quickly from you about your consent and what do you think about it and how do you feel today to start the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Mansee. First of all, I consent to be recorded, and you have my permission to go through all the requirements of your research. In fact, since I have known you as a strong person, a professional first, and also a woman, so I feel that we need to acknowledge the various paths or breakthroughs that women have made in this profession. And I think what you're doing is very nice to make people feel the importance of having women in a profession and how it contributes to strengthening the profession. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So good, then we get started. Take it easy on yourself. And the first question brings you back to some years ago, moon years ago, where we would like to know, how did you get into architecture? We would like to know your high school days and what brought you to the architecture discipline. So over to you.
Yeah, that's been a very kind of instinctive journey, where my father used to do a lot of carpentry. He was a school teacher in maths and science. But I used to love maths and science, but I used to also like working with my hands. And he too had that habit. So I used to fix plug points, do carpentry joints at home, paint a lot. Loved painting, drawing, sketching. So seeing all this, one of his friends who is an artist came home and said, "You're fit to be an architect. You have this combination of art, working with your hands, and of course, you're very good in maths and science. So it's the right profession for you." Somewhere I felt that I don't want to give up this passion of working with my hands along with my maths and science. So, I had kept an aim of one college in our Bombay merit seat of Kamla Raheja. So I said, if I get there, I'm in architecture, otherwise I'll do some engineering. And somehow I got the last seat of Kamla Raheja, 13th seat. I remember there were only 3 seats in merit. And I got through that with no preparation. We had entrance tests, but I just did what I knew naturally. I didn't go for any coaching. But I think somewhere I was very fortunate to get very good faculty who actually gave me the background of what's architecture and how it should be looked on. In fact, the first words of my director, Sen Kapadia, was, if you are here to make money, I think you be the sandwich wala near the gate, but architecture is of a passionate, and learn it and go. I don't care how many years you take, whether you take 5 or 10 years, but once you go out of this college, be a good architect. I think that somehow gave me that impression that this is about passion, this is about yearning to do something which is of your interest and being in a profession which may take all of your time and energy. So I think that prepared me for this journey very well. Yeah, that's how I got into it.
Nice, nice. Because the next question is actually coming to your experience in the college where you have already started talking about it. But I would like to divert your attention to the aspect of being a girl in architecture school. And if I relate with other interviews which I had, you also mentioned this aspect that, you know, being good in drawings, paintings, and being passionate. These are driving forces, and these also align with the profession or the education of architecture. I want to make you remind yourself that what was it about in architecture school, if you really look at the gender aspect, because we also learned that actually in school there is not much of, you know, I am a girl, or I'm a boy and I can do this, but most of us are really wanting to touch the stars when we are there, you know. And especially in architecture education, you are also now teacher, you realize that many girls do wonders in their education time. But we just want to know, how was your journey in your undergraduate, postgraduate, and was this being a girl affecting your journey, or was it facilitating, or you just didn't really get notice of it?
Uh, yeah, I think one thing I would again give credit to my teachers is there was absolutely no discrimination when I was studying. Right from my school days, I should say, that I'm a girl, because they expected you to do everything, right from going to site to spending hours in the sun doing survey. And I think that's very important, where you have to do the hard work, you have to do everything that's asked for in the profession. There's no concession. That's one thing. Second thing was, when we debated or we discussed in class, I think the girls dominated. That was also appreciated. In fact, I remember we had this elective, which was very thought-provoking elective, called Discourses in Knowledge. Now, why this debate-oriented? It was conducted by an art historian. And why am I talking about it is because I think that was the first subject where it gave me a position of thought process of my own, like nothing from the books, nothing from what teachers taught me. And I was one against three guys in the class and gave a tough fight for the debate. And the faculty especially literally pushed us to think for ourselves and put a point. And I think this kind of culture of debate, putting your thoughts, standing for it, supporting it, gave a lot of confidence. But when we go outside the classroom, that's where the problem comes, because the expectations of what you would do changes. You're a girl, you would be moving around where you get married. So what would you do after doing? You're doing so well in education, but will you really practice on your own? Do you have the support or the stability to put your roots? Like for boys, it was quite easy saying that where I am, this is my place of residence and I will be practicing there. Whereas the girls were always unsure where they'll settle down. So they had to find another ways to develop their career. It was always in the background that it's not going to be the same journey. So not that I would put it on my faculty or colleagues per se, but somehow through the social setup, it becomes a natural way of thinking that you cannot start your practice as soon as you graduate, whereas a boy can. And you will not be settling down where you are now. So all your network, whatever you have worked on till now with the set of people, will not be there. So you have to start something on your own. So most of the girls, I think, choose the path of maybe further studies, or a more self-reliant kind of way, like you do something yourself rather than a network, which leads to the idea that you can't practice as soon as you graduate, because all the effort of building the network and staying in one place may be going once you get married or you have to move around. Yeah. So that is something I felt as we come towards graduation.
Interesting.
Through the
Yes, go ahead.
feeling. I want to mention here my Professor Hema Sankalia, who was one of the first architects in Bombay, and she was there in our juries. And she would say that I'm tougher on my girls than on the boys because they need to be tough to, survive in this profession. And I think I really looked up to her, not because of what architecture she was teaching us, because we had a lot of good teachers, including her, but I think the way she stood for women in architecture was what really made me adore her. And she said that be tough and so show that you're nothing less for any of the work demanded by the profession. Don't look for concession, don't ask for concession. And that's what her message for the girls in the class. And I think that's what I adored about her. Yeah.
Interesting, because you also moved to your early career question, which I had, and I will give a little bit more stress on discussing this when you moved out of the college, because you're already talking about it in general, and good to hear about Hema ma'am that she was already preparing. And you know that you and I are also already doing that nowadays when we are teaching. And it's good to be, talking about it openly, and also letting the girls know that this is the journey outside the school. But I would like to bring your attention back to a few years ago when you were getting out of the school. Were you also having this, as you mentioned, there was in the back of the mind, not because of the education, but because of the social cultural setup we have in the society? So what exactly did you do after graduation, and what brought you to the post graduation from there, and then you PhD also? I mean, was it a gradual, progression? Or I know from some studies that were, and even today, girls are actually reaching out to us that, ma'am, we don't want to get married, and that's why we want to do masters. This is also very, very common now. I mean, no, not now, but then also in our days as well. So just curious, how did you take those steps in your life? Because then, I'm going to bring the personal life also here after this. So when did you do your masters, and how did you choose on it? And then also you have a very, very accomplished PhD. And just tell us how did this happen, and where was the woman factor, and how was it a gradual thing, or you made a conscious decision, or it was just that, oh, I have to do this? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yes, there were a couple of factors. One is my parents moved to my native place just after my graduation. I was doing very well in an office. Again, I was working with my professor Chaya, Trilochan Chaya, not Neelkan Chaya. He's uncle of Neelkan Chaya. And he was the very good boss because first of all, they were working on very interesting projects, and he would obviously give me all the encouragement as my prof to take responsibility as I proved myself. Everything was going fine, but my parents decided to shift to native place. My father had retired. So I thought, I don't know where my future is, but if I'm getting my time with my parents and I had this inclination for teaching. I'm fourth generation teacher from my family. My great grandfather started a school. My father's a teacher, and I had this thing that I'm good at it. I used to teach my classmates also, and a lot of people had commented that you have that skill of how to teach people. So I said, fine. First, I had thought that I would practice for 2-3 years or work in a firm and then go to teaching. But then I said, okay, my parents are moving, and we have this Manipal, which is well known university, which would not really affect my career growth. So why not? So I said, if I get a job in Manipal, I'll shift. Otherwise, I'll continue in my firm. So I think it was fluke that I got the job. There was a vacancy. They were in need for, and that's why 6 months after my graduation, I had joined Manipal. Now, the question of masters was very interesting because in those days, masters was not required to be in academics. But for me, I said, if I'm in academics, I have to be good at it. Like I can't be just a person who's forced into academics. So I said, without masters, I can't call myself an academic. This is what I told my father. I said, I have to do this. Otherwise, I don't call myself a good academician. And I have only one place I'm applying. If I get it, I'm going there. This has been my journey. I apply for one college, I get through in architecture. I apply for one place in a job in Manipal, and I get through to it. I applied only for masters in urban design in CEPT. Only one application I've sent, and I get through to it. So that was my one go, which I just took a chance, you can say, and I made that decision. And I think urban design was there at the back of my mind because in Kamla Raheja, right from third year, they introduced that subject, and somehow I felt I had those skill sets to understand large scale designs. And my director, again, Sen Kapadia, had told me that you have that knack of understanding people, which will be a very good asset when you go for urban design. So I think all those things played on my mind, and I decided I'm doing it in CEPT and urban design, and I got through. Again, there were a lot of applicants, and I was kind of not sure. Somehow I got through, and I went for masters. The journey again in masters, I think you also have that experience that girls were very strong in general, every batch. So we never felt the need to be very vocal about it, or to our stance, because we're already quite strong in every class, every batch, and we never had to bow down to anything or anybody. And I think our faculty supported us for that. So again, in academics, I think we're quite sheltered in a way where our classmates behave very well with us, our teachers give us all the support we need. So there is no preparation, I would say, to the real world in the academics, which is quite the opposite. But at the same time, since we do know how the society works and looks at you, it's like a two scenario situations we work with, where we have a group of friends and colleagues, or who accept us for what we are and acknowledge us. At the same time, in the real world, when it comes to money matters, job positions, responsibilities, we know that it won't be the straightforward way. Yeah.
Very interesting point you raised, because the mismatch between the way we are in that bubble of institution and the way the society works outside. And that's a dilemma, I mean, because if the institutions teach us the way society is outside, then we cannot be change makers. So at the same time, if the institutions do not nurture these values which are outside, or norms which are outside, which do not go with the way we should be treated as women in the society, they are somehow then also, we are now to large extent, and giving example of Hema ma'am as well. If we do not give this reminder time and again to girls in the schools, it will be incomplete education also. So this dilemma, whether they should be exposed to the world outside in this little beautiful bubble where we are, almost like very, very bold, as you rightly mentioned, and there you landed as one of my juniors, and that relationship goes on since then till date, which is nice. We go a little further. Yeah,
Can I
go.
take 2
Sure,
minutes
please.
pause?
Yes,
Can I
yes,
take a
please.
minute pause? Just
Sure, sure.
Sorry for
No
this.
issues, no issues. Okay. Yes, so we were talking of the way we are dealt in the school and the way things are outside. There is a mismatch, and interestingly, we do realize now as teachers. So anyway, I would now take you back again few years ago, where you were already settled in Manipal, and congratulations, you are still there. You have seen all these years of journey there. At the same time, you started your family as well soon after, and then you also took your PhD along with the family. So I'm just curious, PhD, kids, husband himself is a kid. then school, then hundreds of children or students in the school. How is your day like? I mean, I'm sure it is the same as today, what it was earlier, but having young kids and doing, and you also do practice. So how do you really put yourself together every day?
See, I have to again uh, give credit to my father for the PhD part of it, because again, when I registered for PhD, it was not compulsory in academics. Even now, I think it's not become compulsory in academics. And he had this ambition that he did up to master, so his daughter should be more educated than him. And that was his dream. Of course, he didn't put pressure on me, but he had always shared. And since I was, again, like I said, in academics, I felt wherever I go, I should be doing my best or reaching the heights of
Yes.
that profession. If you're teaching, means PhD becomes kind of a benchmark of what you are capable of in academics. That was my way of thinking for academics. Um, and since I chose to be a teacher, I said I have to go for PhD. But yes, like you said, I got married and I had a small kid when I was close to 30. All this journey I did with no idea that where my future is taking. I think this is also what happens with women folk, because you keep floating around wondering where the next step is and you don't really know which direction it's going. You can't really plan everything black and white and say you can do this. You don't really stand for it. Not that your parents don't want you to, but I think it's the way in which things are. Like, everything is not in control of your parents or you, whom you marry, what will happen, what kind of professional setup you will get. So there are certain unknowns which make you decide that this may happen or this may not happen. So you make your choices very, where you dedicate your time, money, and effort. So maybe I found academics was one way of making sure that wherever I dedicate my time and qualifications, of course, that it will bear fruit and no, it won't be a problem no matter where I go and what I do. It will be with me. If I change the place of stay or if I decide to go somewhere else. So I think that's one reason where many of the girls go for qualification rather than practice, because they find it easy to decide what to do
Yes,
and
as an
know that
asset. Yeah,
where they go,
they
can
can
use
carry
it.
the asset.
Yeah, they can use it as an asset to be in the profession. For me, academics came very naturally, and practice in architecture was not my passion per se. Because for me, the study part, the understanding part was the most exciting thing in architecture. Understanding context, understanding people, understanding society, and finding a way to address those complex issues. So I think that's where the whole PhD journey became easy as a choice. The tough part was time management, where I had a 5-year-old when I registered for PhD, and in the second year of my PhD, I had another kid. So I had a newborn when I was doing data collection. Good thing was I was with my in-laws who wanted me to do PhD. So I was not cooking. In fact, this is something which may come as a surprise, that I've never cooked regularly throughout in my journey of being married for 18, 19 years. So that's because most of the time my in-laws cooked, they had maids. And next, when my kids were small, my parents came. The second child, when I had, my parents came to me, and my mother cooked. So I think I was relieved of a lot of my, what you would
Domestic
say, a
chores.
regular woman's duty. And that's why I could do justice to my children, spend time with them, as well as give my profession its due. A PhD, actually, since I was doing part time, with the college duties, I had to do it only vacation to vacation. It took me 7.5 years to do that, because all the data collection used to be in that 1.5 month vacation time.
Vacation.
Also, I had done it in a time when we were not prepared for research in our masters or undergrad. So I had to start from scratch to understand
Yes.
what is research. And so 1 year it took for me to understand research and put up a methodology or a topic. Then 2 years to do data collection. And when I say years, like I said, it's vacation to vacation. So it's months. 2 months a year I used to get to do my PhD. And so with during college hours, it was impossible to work on my PhD. 9 to 5, I had full college hour duty, and 5 to 12 at night with a small newborn with no sleep is my children's duty. And I had 2 kids. So I think I didn't force myself to finish it fast. I took it easy. I
Very
said,
intelligent.
time with my children, I can't get it again. So I said, even if it takes 10 years, I don't care. Like, I put my mindset that way. And I'm not racing against anybody or proving anyone what I am. I'll take my time. And even my guide said, my job is to just ensure quality. How much time you take, I don't care. So my guide also was with me in that way. So he said that as long as you give me quality, I'm okay with what time you take. So I think I'm that way very blessed that I had teachers who guided me very well, accepted me for whatever situation I was in. I think in masters, the journey was very fast. Like, I did everything in a top speed, learned so many things. And PhD was the exact opposite. It was literally moving in snail space. And it was not me, the normal me in academics. So I think that's what happens when you are a woman. Of course, I had the support of my in-laws and mother and my parents, who always came down. I shifted to campus to manage travel time with the 2 kids and all that. But still, I think you will be kind of torn between all the kind of expectations that people have. And since I registered for PhD when not many were doing, there was a lot of jealousy in the department, which I had to face, which put more pressure on me to do my job in the department properly. Like, they would say, you have kids, you are doing PhD, so you're not doing your job here properly.
Yes.
In fact, I don't know, in this question I should answer, but what is the problems women face in the workplace? Should I elaborate now, or the next question?
You may actually. We have questions on challenges of being women in a profession, but you are articulating it so nicely, and I will take a point from what you were saying at this point, that the support from family and fraternity, and especially where you work or your mentors, really become very crucial in the way women shape their career or life, for that matter, because it's more of a discussion on life. And I think another important thing as women we realize, which you very nicely mentioned in PhD, that it was at a snail space. And PhD should be like that, so that it sinks in, because PhD is not about a degree, it is about having that inner understanding. So if it is taking more time, which means you are with the subject for longer time, so for whatever reason. So I think this is also something very important, which we realize after doing it. Of course, when we are doing it, it is a big burden on the shoulders. So you may please answer. The questions are very simple for you, and you can give example. We encourage to give examples. Some opportunities which you realize that being woman was really a great in a certain circumstances, at work or during your PhD journey, and challenges like being a woman, that this was becoming challenging. And workplace challenges are very, very crucial, And this is also very normal, I will say, where if it can be sorted out, but women cannot sort it out, it is again social cultural. But then we are very keen to hear your experience about it, and how did you overcome?
Yeah. So when you say workplace, right? I think when we are responsible people, when I was say I joined Manipal before I got married. So that time all my leaves were never used. I had accumulated all my leaves, and my work hours was totally for college, and I didn't have anything which would kind of become a problem in terms of whatever demands my college set. So anytime anything they asked for, I was able to do it 100%. So that time I was kind of rated very high in my institute and given a lot of responsibility, and I rose to managing a lot of events and activities in the department at a very young age. And of course, a lot of accolades or praise was put on me. As soon as I got kids, there was a restriction on how much responsibility, not responsibility, I would say time. Time became a main factor which I couldn't give as much as I used to give before. And if my child fell ill, especially when they were very small, I thought that I have to put leave. So my leaves started getting exhausted. Now, like I said, 9 to 5, I gave my 100% to college. In terms of quality, I don't think anything suffered. But as soon as you say that after 5, I am for my family, and if my children fall ill, I have to take leave. When you put that foot down, automatically you get degraded as a mediocre faculty, as a mediocre worker. Now, these demands of a women folk is taken as a quality which makes her less than a man, not because she is working less or her quality of output is less, but because she'll put a line as to how much hours and how much leaves she's going to use. Now, this condition does not fall on all men. I would not put that no man takes leave for his kids. Of course, they put leave, but especially when it's small kids, you cannot put that responsibility on anyone else other than the mother, especially a very few 1 or 2 year old kid and so on. I think that understanding or concession is not there for women in the workplace. They say it's equality. So if we want you to do more than 9 to 5, you should be able to do irrespective of what, and you will be graded that way. Otherwise, it's unfair to people who are putting in. But my question is very simple. I'm paid to do 9 to 5 job, and I've agreed to do it. And I am taking leaves as per the norms of the college without exceeding the limits. That doesn't make me less of a worker, and your job requirement should be within those limits. It cannot go beyond that. And you cannot assume that other hours are mine. So a lot of things like when I started traveling long distance, because my in-laws were staying initially far away, and when my first daughter was there, I was still with my in-laws. So I had a bus to catch, which was exactly at 5:20, and I had to leave by 5:05 or 5:10. Otherwise, the next bus would be another 45 minutes late, and my daughter is waiting for me. So this cycle of timing, like if there is a meeting, they would start at 4:30 and not end it at 5:15 or 5:20. I said, I have to go. So these kind of clashes started coming where exceeding beyond 5 became normal for the institute. And for me, it is not normal. I had a responsibility at home. Now, this thinking of women who said that so much time I've already given, beyond that is my home time, my children's time. And we are responsible people. That's why we do it. It's not that we are irresponsible. But we get categorized as mediocre is something for me very difficult to digest, because I was always very good at my work before or after. So this is something, even in workplace, when this rule came that there should be a creche. Right now in Manipal, within the academic building, there's no creche. It's still in the outskirts. And they expect the women folk to leave their small kids in that creche, which is taking them by vehicle at least 10 minutes, not walk. So what's the point? Will you
Lunchtime,
really
huh?
leave your small baby so far away and be comfortable working? Because most of the men folk won't understand the worry that the women folk go by leaving a kid so far away. So you usually have to have a nanny or your parent or joint family to
Even
actually be carefully to work. And on your own, you can't have a child and work comfortably. So I would say for a person who has a newborn child, yeah, they have only two choices as women folk: take a break in your career or have joint family. There is no other choice. The workplace doesn't support. That's true for, I think, most of the
and India.
places. I think in India
Even
at
all over
least.
the world, actually, that is noticed in women in architecture, and also in other profession, because I'm also working on women in water. But and an interesting point you raised, this whole beyond 9 to 5, and it reminds me of a line from our great President Abdul Kalam ji, who said, "If you are working more hours, which means if you are inefficient." It's so this is a regular problem, and this is a very masculine thing, which we often which we often find in most of the workplaces, institutions, consultancy, everywhere, where working for more hours is rated more. You know,
Not
vis-a-vis
taking
work.
not taking leaves. In
Not
fact,
taking
even
leaves, not taking
yeah.
leaves. But what is important to understand here, and I think at some point in time we will also do this study and work, because I recently saw your work in child, and I was talking about it. Why is the role of women not factored in the profession? You know, and why children are not factored in the profession? If a mother is giving birth to a child, is raising the child, it is for the society as well, and that has to be factored in the profession. And it is also to do with most organizations want to do more work with lesser human hours, you know, or with lesser human resources. So not having time for family and giving more time to profession is kind of a justified as you are being more dedicated, or you are, you
Exactly.
know, you are excellent. And this is
Yeah.
wrong, because if person is not happy and not you know, loyal to the family or your own people, your family members, that person cannot be even efficient for the outside world. So one has to, and this I think women understand very clearly, that I have to be first honest to be to my own family, to be honest to others. And this is yet to come in the profession. And crash is a very good example you mentioned. But crash, again, not thoughtfully done crash is same as, you know, having someone outside. Another thing which you raised very interestingly is that you need to have people around, your own people, to take care of your child if your career is equally important, or you have to give a break to your career and restart. And you know, it is not an easy task to restart, although you had a great situation in your life, and I'm seeing how grateful you are to all of them who have really made it you know, for you. Just still to understand, have you ever realized in a situation where you found that, aha, being woman was really, really more sensible and better in this kind of arrangement? I mean,
Uh,
interesting to hear that.
I'll tell you, as a woman, architecture as a profession, I think I did the right choice, because the sensitivity that the woman has to different issues of people, behavior, and even as a teacher, to understand the kids, you know, that nurturer. Even when I was just 28, when I started teaching, I used to call my students makkad in Kannada when I used to tell my grandma what I'm doing at my job place. So she would say, "How come? What you say?" I used to say, "I have 40 kids." It's basically like my children. So she used to laugh like, "You already have 40 kids." So I think that instinct of nurturing makes you a very good teacher and an academician. Also, the assessment of society. You have that sense of nurturing. So you become sensitive, like you are, about people, about water, about environment. I think we naturally are equipped to understand these subjects and do justice to it. And I think there is my strength as a woman. And even when I was a director, I felt the human touch in management comes from women better than men. Because as soon as one person tells, be it a male or a female, that my parent is ill, this happened in Corona. I think my whole directorship was during the Corona time. So as soon as someone says that someone at home is ill, I think the scenario that the woman takes is the worry and the stress that the person is going through, which is factored in when I give them the concessions. And since certain places I had the power to give concessions, I gave maximum, because for me, when your family member is ill, the type of worry that comes, it's not about you doing anything for them. It's just being there when they need you. So just the physical presence makes a difference. And you understand that. This kind of understanding in management, the human touch, can come only with the woman, and not, I think, at least the men folk, because
Most
they don't
men,
face
most men.
yeah. Other thing which I think is the strength of women, and Manipal has close to 14, 15 heads of institutions as women, and a lot of women faculty. I've seen that they're very good at multitask. So it's not just me. I think all across all, they can talk on the phone with the business or a dealer, and be human to a student in the next moment with sympathy, empathy, and be firm with your staff if you want to get something done on time. So you can take multiple roles, multiple coordination, manage it at the same time. And this is multitasking, I think, is the strength of women. And I think we
Every
do it
woman.
since small, young age. And I think we have that ability to cross connect. Like you saw something on the road and how to use it in another totally different situation, that kind of cross connection that happens with the women folk, like, kuch bhi utha liya aur uska kuch naya use le liya. The tendency of recycling or repurposing an idea, I think the women folk do very well. And I think that helped me to be good at management skills, at getting most with limited resources, taking on crisis situations and managing it on time, managing people more sensitively than just rules and procedures. I think knowing a person by talking, especially students, and nurturing them to do their best, these things, as a woman, I think I had my strengths, and I got an edge over the men folk in that way. But these are not measurables. I think women folk have these qualities which are not measured.
Yes.
Maybe the measuring system is designed by men folk, so they can't measure things which we manage to do. And hence they get unnoticed or unacknowledged. And like I said, I saw this not only in me, but in all the women folk who are heading teams, who are managing things. And in fact, the rapport which we had in crisis situation, the women folk, was amazing. Like if I was in trouble and I had another head or another person in charge who was a woman, the understanding was very quick, because she knows exactly what's happening and what is my situation. Whereas if I had to do that kind of communication with the men folk, they wouldn't understand. It would take them time to understand. So I think in crisis situation, the soft skills, the multitasking and the risk management and the human touch part of it, I found the women folk doing much, 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 much more better than the men folk. And I have no hesitation in emphasizing this. I'm not being a feminist in that way, because I know that certain things the men folk are strong, and I don't deny that at also. So there are certain things like, when you have to just get things done very firmly and take authority, somewhere the men folk do well, even if
The
they
impact
don't
is
know. And I really wonder how they do it. So yeah, in terms of, I mean, maybe it's me, but I don't like too much of conflict amongst the people. So I try to sort it out amicably. So the time and effort that I take to remove conflicts is much more than maybe the men folks. So I think I'm not so good at saying no. I think the women folk don't know how to say no, and that's also a problem. It
I think
leads
it's
to,
getting along everybody, huh?
yeah, and I think it leads to a lot of problems of you taking on more than you can chew, and then you don't want to displease anybody. I think most of the women don't know how to say no to things, and that's where that leads to a lot of work piled up or responsibility piled up on them. And that also, I think, is something that is taken for granted for men, because from childhood they said this is not his job or this is not what he's meant to do, whereas women, for whatever is left over as responsibility, comes on the women folk. So you never say no. Ye karke karna hai, okay, do it, that kind of thing. So we are not used to saying no to any responsibility. And that becomes a problem when, especially when I had this post of director, where I had to say no to certain things, and I told yes instead, and I ended up wasting a lot of my energy and resources in things which I couldn't get it done. Like, I should have just said no because it was not possible, and there's nothing wrong in saying no. That mindset is not there. You don't want to
Interesting.
disappoint.
Interest. I think also because, as you rightly mentioned, we want to this whole notion of taking everybody along, not displeasing anybody, not hurting anybody. That brings a lot of extra burden, and this is also very much noticed when we talk about family and work balance, work-life balance, because you want to be good at both ends, and also your own career and whole thought process and all. Just coming towards the last couple of questions now. How do you think your thought process, which you also already mentioned very briefly, has really shaped your way of dealing with the profession? I mean, you do mention a lot about your observation of people, your detailings and all, but your approach to design, how do you think it has influenced the way your journey has been so far? Or being a woman, how does it matter? I put another question to you because your answers are very nice, so that you can see how you can shape the question. The penultimate question for you is that, how do you think cities would look if the situation was completely opposite? There were more women successful architects, although I know you and I do not believe in the word success, because success itself is masculine. I mean, I strongly believe that we should not really follow the successful notion, because that itself is masculine. Reaching somewhere or becoming XYZ makes you successful, or doing this project makes you successful. But just a hypothetical situation, imagine all the leading architects in the city, or urban designers, planners, are women. How do you think cities would have been? This is the only tricky question for you, but you have both the questions. You can take it the way you would like to respond.
Yeah. So as designer, from the beginning, like I said, I was very sensitive to people. So I would say that for me, the space or the aesthetics is to make it good for the people. My whole way of designing is that way. So I didn't have one way of aesthetic. Like, this is not my mark of aesthetics. For me, aesthetics is to make it better for the people who are using it. So it would change as per the person who's going to use it, and transform the shape to suit the need of that person. So the person was always in the center of my decision making. So to rephrase your second question, I would say, what if the decision makers were women?
Yes,
I
I
don't
meant
mind
that
who
actually.
designs. I don't mind who designs it, but the final decision, if it was a woman who takes the decision, I think the sensitivity to people, the user, would be, I think, at least 10 times more, if not 100, because we get this, I say, the nurturing experience where if it hurts an arthritis person to climb a step, we feel the pain. If we feel that the child can get hurt, we all beforehand we plan how to keep them safe from a speeding car or a parking lot. Like that forethought of where the child may get hurt or how the elderly may find problems while using, that kind of concern is always there in the back of your mind. So as designers, when we see a design, we don't just see it as how beautiful it looks or what kind of mechanics in terms of structural greatness it is. We would also see that how easy would it be for the child to run around, how easy would it be for that elderly to climb it and enjoy the space, how would a family come and use that space, is it a family friendly place. I think these issues, women would be very sensitive and understanding, which normally the, like you said, the cost of the project, the style of the project will take less precedence.
The background.
It's a background for doing something much more. For me, a best project today, when we give out the awards, uh, the most expensive project usually becomes the nominee for an award. I would say, why? Is a low cost a sign of less quality? Or
Not
is, flamboyance a mark of a good architect? Okay, if you are building something totally different, is it the only way to express creativity? These are my questions when I'm a teacher and I get these award functions which say, okay, he has done things which is the most expensive, the most daring, the most different. And I say, is that good architecture? Because it does not address the concerns of the people. It does not address the global warming concern or climate change concern, nor effective use of resources for that matter, nor the comfort of the people using it. Then why is the awards given to them as the best? And what are we telling our professions who are coming up, that this is what you aim to do? Build something which is totally different, whether the people like it or not, whether you're concerned about the way the resources are being used, how do you maintain it? Some species of trees have gone extinct and still that architecture gets an award. Some, acres of eco-sensitive land has been taken up, and acres of biggest city comes up, and no one, feels bad about it. Your resources are getting compromised. Bridges are being built without a concern of how the water will flow, whether it's good that the water will flow. Dams are being constructed without really knowing what the people will do after some disaster occurs or when the displacement of whole settlement takes place. Now, I think if you are a family member and you are used to one house, how much is a woman comfortable with shifting from that house when they settle down for a family, where they know whom to go to for various issues or problems they face, how they've built a network of people who would come to their aid when they need something. And suddenly when that woman gets displaced, because she is dealing with all the vulnerable, any sick person in the house, the woman is responsible. The smallest, youngest child in the house, the woman is responsible. An old age person, the woman is. So she's dealing with a lot of vulnerable people relying on her. So she knows what it's going to cost when you lose the social fabric or the network, when you settle in one place and you're used to that social and I think physical resources to manage those vulnerable people. And when you want to displace them again and again, how difficult it is to manage those situations. She will, I think, understand what displacement means when you are telling people to move away from where they have settled down. I think it means a lot different to a woman than a man when you say change the location of the house, change the location of the settlement, change the location of what you do, how you do. I think I would say that's why in South India, matriarchy is said that land and women go together.
Yes.
And there is more attachment to the land by the woman. I think it's very true because we don't want to shift. We build roots. That root
It's
system.
like a tree. It's like a tree.
Exactly. So we are having these roots which take the resources and are comfortable. And once we build those roots, we don't want to shift. And we don't want to get displaced because building those roots again becomes very difficult. So the way we look at society and take decisions is very different. And I would say the award should go to people who have made efficient use of resources, who addressed a lot of issues meant for the society, who addressed the concerns of global warming, environment, water. And we don't have those kind of awards in the profession, nor are the people being acknowledged for contributing towards these causes. And both men and women are contributing. I'm not saying
yes,
the designers wise there is a problem. I say decision makers are the problem. The decision makers, and I think that's where these people will get acknowledged who are sensitive to things or issues beyond the mega, the different, or the flamboyant, like being obsessed with the structural, physical
looks, narcissistic architecture, huh?
Achievements of the structure would be less important, and the achievement of solving people's problems, addressing the need of the society should be highlighted. I would put awards for that. And I think I've seen more women folk talk about these issues compared to men. There are men folk, I shouldn't be biased there, and doing
majority,
a lot for the
we are talking about a pattern.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and also getting, like you said, measured by the cost of project or the scale of resources used. So I think that attitude should go, and that is not there in many of the women folk, and practice has become dominated by how expensive, like especially those who go to the architects, they're like, how much you know about expensive stuff. You know to procure the most expensive gadgets. You have network in Malaysia, Dubai to source those kind of out of the world and exclusive things. They don't see you as a designer who can solve your problems with minimum resources and least budget. They look at you as a designer who can be as flamboyant and have a good network of getting a lot of exclusive things, then you're a great architect. This kind of measurement is there in the society and the profession, and a lot of women architects also indulge in this. I'm not
trap into it, by the way, because of this success definition.
Exactly. So I would say that how many of them give awards to people who have worked with the poor to give them a housing of good design? And why isn't another person like Laurie Baker? Laurie Baker, thank God, at least towards the end of his life, got celebrated for low cost. But how many architects have made their career by building low cost? I'm saying not
it's
people
all about high cost. It is all about high cost.
I have people who are building low cost, but it's something which has not made their career. The career was made by flamboyant architecture, but they, out of concern of society, are also doing low cost. So I'm not saying that ethics is not there in the profession or people are not good, but they're not being celebrated for it. I'm
not
saying
acknowledged.
They're not acknowledged. So if there is an architectural firm doing only that, they won't be celebrated.
They won't survive also. It is a question of sustaining the profession.
So there are good firms who do flamboyant for name, fame, and awards, and then they do the simple, non-acknowledged, simple architecture for their own
for their conscience.
For their conscience, I would say. So there are some good architects doing both, but they don't survive or they don't get acknowledged for those simple ones. They rather get acknowledged for the flamboyant or the most expensive ones. And even when they talk, won't talk much about
those.
that they did it for their personal reasons, kind of thing.
It's like,
So,
sin cleaning, huh? Cleansing process.
sadly, yes, there are all kinds in the world which make up the world. But I would say, as a profession, what do we stand for? I'm not saying there shouldn't be any. There will be 5-star hotel, there will be buildings which are flamboyant. But I'm saying when we praise the awards, when we phrase what we stand for, because awards are a way of saying what the profession stands for.
This is good. It is an endorsement.
Yeah, and what are the best examples? I think there I have a problem. I'm not saying don't build buildings which are unique or flamboyant. I'm saying, how do we phrase these awards and what are these awards for? Is it balanced? Is it acknowledging what the profession stands for and what we can do as professionals? Are we celebrating the right people? Are we acknowledging the good people in the profession?
Good architecture.
Yeah, there are people who have not built, but they have done good to a lot of people in the society through other works. Are we really acknowledging them? And especially academicians are totally neglected because professionals in the firm say, whatever you have learned it in my office, your teachers have not taught. But I would say, then how do they really do any drawing in the firm? I have heard a lot of these talks that you keep doing studies in academics, but there is no output. I said, without the understanding, how do you know what is right and what is wrong? Where would the ethics or value system come if you don't study? If you know everything before you study a context, that means you are not acknowledging the context at all, or nor are you acknowledging your people. So without study, if you're taking decisions as an architect, means you're not a good designer. And these values and ethics are not acknowledged by the profession. In fact, spending time in the studies, academic work, and in profession, you don't do that, is what the professionals tell the students. And they say, whatever you have learned is wrong. And that's where I have a problem, because institutions are supposed to build value system and we give value to the context and the people. The firms are saying, don't give value. And they call them
drawings.
They put it in the mind of the student that if you want to be a professional, that's not your value system. And I think that's doing a lot of problems for our profession, that way of thinking.
It's harming. And it is also coming from the pedagogy, because you raise some very, very pertinent question, the way architecture stands today. And this is also one of the reasons why women have to take those leading positions, and that is why this question was asked to you, how cities should be or will be if there were more women seated in those positions where they were doing the same projects which men are doing, from riverfront to cinema to all kinds of public buildings and public spaces. How they would have dealt in those projects, and that definitely those factors will come. But because today the success is defined in a very different way, the award takers and award givers are still masculine domain, and you will be also acknowledging the fact that because of this lack of acknowledgement by the people who are really doing little work here and there, my study tells that a lot of women are doing diverging activities if they want to hold on to their conscience and do little things here and there, rather than jumping into big projects. They may not be getting it also, but then this women doing multitasking at the same time, women diverging in the profession is a very common pattern, and a pattern is also seen that they are inclined more towards sustainability, more towards inclusivity, as you rightly mentioned, to do it for people and all. I still would like to give us an utopian impression, let's say UDP, and also bring in your expertise, which because this is a very personal journey conversation, we didn't talk much about the heritage and all these aspects where you really work in depth, but still paint us a picture of how a place will be if all the leading architects of the place were women. And what you mentioned is very true. In that case, women should really encourage themselves, or we should encourage women to take up positions in local authorities to be the right decision maker, enter the PSC exams to become commissioner and collector, to be able to take the right position. And that is where we are very much lacking in our profession, because not many architects go into those lines of decision making, as you were mentioning. But leaving those things aside, because this is a penultimate question, I want to stress on painting a picture for us how a city would look if all the leading architects of that place, or if the city was designed, let's say, by most of the women architects.
Yeah. So for me, when I see any place designed by women, I always see that it will have a lot of touch of culture and art in it. And there will be a sensitivity for giving a place to come together, the sense of people coming together, a sense of being inclusive in terms of all age group, especially of all kind of wishes, like playing together. The children should play, the people should chat, people should walk. I think the notion of speed is not there in women, so the priority of fastness would go, and priority to being in a place would take precedence in the decision making. So that way you would not look at how fast you can go from A to B, but how comfortably you can go from A to B. And health, I think, will take a priority,
Very well
because
put.
the concern of health of the people will be there, a concern for well-being as a holistic definition. Well-being, I don't mean in terms of money or in terms of how many goods you can buy or accessibility to goods. Well-being, I say that, can you be safe? I think safety, women are very sensitive to safety and health issues. So how to be safe, how to feel secure in a place, and how to allow people to be free in the sense they can move easily, they can talk easily, they can come together easily without being left out in any way. These will be the primary issues of design, and they will also look at a lot of nature. I think women are very close to nature, like they relate to that nurturing effect, I would say. So having flowers, having plants, you will see that that greenery would be given a lot of importance, a sense of growth, which is natural, be it pets, be it plants, be it something to do with life, I would say cycle. The cyclic process is always preferred rather than uncharted patterns, linear patterns. So you would like things to be in a cycle, in a repetitive manner, and you would like things to come back to it again and again. So I would say repetition is not a bad thing in terms of women folk. Being slow is not a bad thing. Being kind of inclusive at the cost of losing time, you don't mind being inclusive, or at the cost of less area for vehicular traffic, you don't mind having more space for children to play. At the cost of reducing pollution, you don't mind taking some strict actions and change of lifestyle. I think at home, when you say mommy is the boss, that means you are demanding some lifestyle changes for the health of the family or for the good of the family. So putting your firm hand down to make sure that people are healthy, safer, having a good holistic life, this would be the concern. And being nurturers, you would be close to nature. So all these issues would take more central place in the decision making. And I think I would see a very slow paced town. Already Udupi is not as fast as Bombay, but I would say I would still slow it down and have a life which is full of different parts. I think when you said about professionalism, I think every person needs to be a complete person. You can't be a teacher, you can't be a doctor your whole life. You have to play multiple roles to be a complete person. So for me, my identity is complete when I'm a mother, daughter, sister, teacher, a colleague, a friend, a singer, maybe a passionate hobby person.
I'm saying thinker.
Thinker. A writer. I think we need multiple parts doing different roles in the society. I think you have to contribute something to be part of society. You have to contribute to your profession. You have to contribute to your family. You have to have friends. You have to have culture in your life. You have to have art. You have to have your hobbies. Only then it makes you a complete person. If you give all your time to one role, I think you're doing injustice to yourself.
Cities, huh?
Yeah. So I think if you say, like you said, no, all your time goes to showing your boss that you are very good, that means you are leading an incomplete life and you're not a whole person. You're not doing what is meant to be done. Somewhere else, you are not being responsible. Somewhere else, you're not doing, not contributing to society. You're not being happy. So like you said, you have lost your hobbies, your touch with your passion. So you are becoming more and more depressed. Somewhere you're not nurturing your mind, your creativity. So all kinds of problems come because you are leaving a very mono culture. I think, diverse roles, diverse that's why I said we are very good at being inclusive, because we like diversity. We like, a kind of inclusive attitude towards what's going on around you. So putting together those diverse roles is very important to live a complete life. So there should be time for everything. Yeah.
Interesting. I will pick the word slowing down. A slow city is a good city. That will be my pick from the question here. That brings me to the last question on the gender aspect of it. What will be your 1 or 2 line message to the younger generation? Now we are not talking about boys or girls or other genders, but what will be your message to them to make women be more included in the profession to actually make the cities better? What will be your message to them? I mean, because what you were saying, all these, we are actually teaching them. We're teaching them in the school, but again, just like you were talking about, we don't teach girls how the world is outside, and they are really taken care very differently in the school, and outside there's a mismatch. Very similar to that, actually, we are teaching all this in the school about good city, sustainable city, inclusive city, but outside, the same students, when they become professionals, they practice in a very different manner because of the social culture. So this dilemma is going to stay, and that has to be changed by bringing more women, and that's why we are doing this exercise also. How do you really convey a message to all the younger generation to bring more women in the profession, and what should they do for future?
As far as my experience with my girl students goes, I think they have been very successful in being change makers in society through their own way of doing things. I think they should be very good entrepreneurs. One of the good ways of making your own stand is to have your own practice and have your own entrepreneur goals, which may not be hardcore architecture, but more of bringing change in the society. I think women are very good at doing that. So there is a need in the society today where you need to educate people of best practices, educate people of what's a good road, what's a good park, what's a good uh, sanitation system. How do you build a society which is more friendly to children? How do you build a society which is more friendly to old age? How do you build a society which includes people of different economic background? Because the new cities which have HIG, LIG, I think the biggest crime they did is divide the society as per economy. Whereas where I stayed before, which was not divided, we had rich and poor people living in the same building with different grades. And next to our building used to be even a small chawl where it was not looked down upon. I mean, it was not something that had to be removed. So the chawl kids used to play with us, and we had kids from textile industry owners to me, like a school teacher's daughter, all mingling together with the kids of my maid also playing with me. So that divide has become more when we had this income based housing. So all this economic divide, I would say, is the new caste system, or I would say worse than caste system, because a caste at least had some kind of link with occupation. Here it is serving no purpose. By dividing the society through economy, you have not addressed any problem of the society. You have not given any positive contribution. So I think this kind of standing for these values and bringing a change in the decision making process itself, all the new generation of architects should do. Like, how do we remove these kind of classifications, this divide? How do you make things more inclusive? How do you bring more compatibility with context in terms of nature? How do you retain identity of culture and art and give maximum expression to local creativity or local identities, not disappear into this uniform, universal aesthetics, which I feel is again dominated by the West. We are losing our own,
Yes.
indigenous way of thinking by being highly influenced by the West. And I think there is a lot of strength in our local cultures, which we have to learn for and revive. Like I have worked a lot with the local
Yes.
practices, local rituals, local arts, local meanings and associations, and their life styles and the link to the place. I feel it is very rooted in the place, and that's why it's good for the people. Whenever I say, what is my God, I would say, my land is my God, and I always
Yes.
seek its blessings, because without the nature, without the land, we don't exist. That's why the five elements by our ancestors were made the prime goal of all our designs. Even the mandala talks of five elements, because without nature, without a balance in this, we don't exist. Even in health, like in Ayurveda, or in the house, which is the Vastu Mandala.
And
So
even
I think,
gender, for that matter.
yeah, correct. So
We
I
cover
think,
half the sky, huh? We cover half the
yeah,
sky and land. So,
exactly. So I think the earth, the land, the nature, the flora, the fauna, the animals, the plants, the flowers, the fruits, these should come back to our life, and we should have a very strong connect and see how the local beliefs, the local way of life were in tune with it, and brought it in its fold as a cultural exploration. Because when you have motifs related to those things in your architecture, it makes a real connect. When you look at the sun angle and build something, it really makes a difference.
yes.
When you look at the type of wind that you get, like this rains we were just talking of, it's like buckets of water being poured. So how would architecture respond to this element of rain and how will that expression come as an identity of Udupi architecture? That's important. That rain is the element which decides how my roof is, what is the ratio of wall to roof in my elevation, what is the height of columns to shelter me from this rain, what is the size of windows, orientation wise. So every decision in Udupi should be in relation to these elements, and how local architecture have responded to it. How can we modernize it or take it forward as a concept, as a theme? How do we make it more efficient and have our innovations for the land, for the people, for the issues of this place, including global warming, losing of soil, losing of species, biodiversity. All these are very important issues for the health and well-being of the society. So we have to be innovative and creative to solve these problems.
All
I
of
think these are
them.
very complex problems. So all our creativity, our artistic skills should be to make solutions for these things, which are very complex and need the all our strengths to be focused towards it, to make it possible for the next generation
Interesting.
to solve.
Interesting. So my pick will be like understand your local place, engage with it, and also then if you associate yourself, you also feel more complete. I will say. And interesting that you, while you talk about your journey, you also give due acknowledgement to your family, your in-laws, your parents. You also acknowledge Sen Kapadia sir, Hema Sankalia ma'am, and also Laurie Baker and people like this. I'm sure they have influenced the way you are today. And that is very much evident in the way you speak about things. You speak about people, you speak about sustainability, you speak about children. I mean, children are still not factored in the profession of architecture. You do touch the aspects of narcissism being practiced, and we have to do a lot about it. So, a lot of learning, and I'm sure you enjoyed this conversation to open your heart out, pour your heart out to us. And it's really nice learning from you. And you know now how contented I feel when I hear from all the girls like you what life is about and how it should be practiced as a profession. It's really, really wonderful to have you and really learn from you and also understand how things are from your end. And trust me, they are not very different than most of the women talk about life, talk about cities, talk about people, talk about type of architecture. So thank you, Deepika, for taking this conversation in such a wonderful manner and sporting manner and pouring your heart out. Thank you so much.